Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an in-depth exploration of a remarkable economic story. Why Australians are the richest people in the world. Yes, you heard that right. As of 2019, the average Australian adult has a net worth of $411,000 US dollars. And even more impressively, the median net worth, the wealth of the person right in the middle when you line up everyone from richest to poorest, is $191,000 US dollars. That's more than 3 times the median wealth of a typical American. What's more, Australia has gone over 27 years without a recession, sailing through the 2008 global financial crisis with barely a scratch. So what's the secret behind this incredible wealth? Is it just luck, or is there something deeper at play? Tonight we're going to dive into the heart of Australia's economic success, exploring the factors that have made this nation a global leader in private wealth. We'll look at its mining industry, the skyrocketing housing market, and a unique retirement savings system called superannuation. Along the way, we'll uncover the policies, the people, and the circumstances that have turned Australia into what many call the lucky country. So let's get started and find out why Australians are sitting on such enormous piles of wealth. Picture Australia, a vast, beautiful continent, often called the land down under. It's a place of stunning beaches, vibrant cities, and yes, a few snakes and spiders that might make you think twice about moving there. But beyond the wildlife, Australia is a land of opportunity, a place where the average person has amassed wealth that outshines most of the world. The claim is bold. This is the land that the wealthiest citizens in the world call home. It's backed up by hard numbers from sources like Credit Suisse's Global Wealth Report. In 2019, the average Australian adult's wealth was $411,000 US dollars. But what's even more striking is the median, $191,000 US dollars. This means that wealth in Australia isn't just concentrated among a few billionaires. It's spread relatively evenly across the population. Unlike in many countries where the super rich skew the average, Australia's wealth reaches the everyday person. To put this in perspective, the median wealth in the United States at the time was far lower, making Australia's middle class extraordinarily prosperous by global standards. Now you might be wondering, how did Australia pull this off? A country of just 25 million people, geographically isolated, with a history as a British colony, how did it become the wealthiest nation on earth, excluding tiny micronations like Monaco or Liechtenstein? The story is one of being in the right place at the right time, combined with smart policies and a bit of luck. To understand this wealth, we need to explore 3 key drivers: mining, housing, and superannuation. Each of these tells a part of the story, and together they paint a picture of a nation that's mastered the art of wealth building. Let's start with the first piece of the puzzle: Australia's mining industry. The mining industry is often the first place people look when trying to explain Australia's wealth. It's an obvious choice. Australia is blessed with a treasure chest of natural resources: iron ore, coal, natural gas, gold, and more, all buried in its vast outback. These resources have fueled Australia's economy for decades, especially as Asia's economies exploded in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea have been hungry for raw materials to build their cities, power their factories, and drive their growth. Australia, with its massive deposits and strategic location in the Asia-Pacific region, has been the perfect supplier. In 2018 alone, Australia exported over $270 billion US dollars worth of raw materials, making it a key player in global trade. Imagine the scale of this: ships loaded with iron ore leaving Australian ports, bound for steel mills in Shanghai or Seoul, fueling the construction of skyscrapers and infrastructure across Asia. This export boom has been a cornerstone of Australia's economic success, bringing in billions of dollars and creating high-paying jobs. Speaking of jobs, the mining industry is a goldmine, pun intended, for workers. An unskilled laborer in Australia's mining sector can earn up to $150,000 US dollars a year, compared to $47,000 for a similar role in the US. Skilled tradespeople and engineers earn even more, sometimes double or triple that amount. These are life-changing salaries, the kind that can turn a regular worker into a millionaire over a career. Imagine a young Australian, maybe 25 years old, heading to a remote mine in Western Australia. They're driving trucks or operating machinery, working long shifts in the scorching outback, but they're earning enough to buy a house, save for the future, and live comfortably. These jobs are a big reason why Australia's wealth is so tangible for everyday people. But here's where the story gets interesting. Mining isn't the whole story. Despite what you might think, mining doesn't dominate Australia's economy as much as people assume. It employs only about 3% of the workforce, just a small fraction of Australia's 12 million workers at the time. In terms of GDP, mining contributes about 7%, which is significant but far less than industries like services, construction, finance, and education. To put that in perspective, Australia's service sector, which includes everything from healthcare to tourism, accounts for over 60% of GDP. Mining is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the golden ticket everyone imagines. Let's dig deeper into why mining's impact is limited. For one, those high-paying jobs are rare. Most Australians don't work in mines, they're teachers, nurses, accountants, or baristas. The mining boom has benefited specific regions like Western Australia and Queensland, but it hasn't transformed the entire country. Plus, there was a missed opportunity, a proposed tax on mining companies to capture more of the resource wealth. Australia's left-wing party pushed for this tax, but fierce lobbying from the mining industry killed it. Imagine what could have been billions in extra revenue to fund schools, hospitals, or infrastructure. Instead, much of the profit went to private companies, often foreign-owned. This shows that while mining has helped, it's not the main driver of Australia's wealth. So where else should we look? The answer lies in something much closer to home, literally. The focus shifts to the housing market, and this is where things get really interesting. Australia is a desirable place to live. It's safe, clean, with top-notch schools, hospitals, and opportunities. Cities like Sydney and Melbourne consistently rank among the world's most livable. This makes Australia a magnet for wealthy migrants, skilled professionals, and international students. The government has leaned into this with open immigration policies for doctors, engineers, and affluent individuals. There's even a robust student visa program bringing thousands of foreign students to Australian universities. Why does this matter? Because when wealthy or skilled people move to Australia, they bring money and boost the economy. They buy homes, shop at local businesses, and pay tuition, injecting cash into the system. But there's a catch. All these newcomers need somewhere to live, and that's driven housing demand through the roof. A policy called negative gearing has made this even more intense. Negative gearing allows property investors to offset losses on rental properties against their taxable income, making real estate a tax-efficient investment. This has encouraged Australians and foreign investors to pour money into property rather than stocks or other assets. The result? A housing market that's among the most expensive in the world. In Sydney, an average 4-bedroom family home costs over $1.5 million US dollars. We're shown images of modest-looking homes that sold for over $2 million in the year before 2019. Let that sink in. A regular house, nothing fancy, fetching prices that would buy a mansion in many other countries. This housing boom has been a double-edged sword. For those who bought homes decades ago, it's been a windfall. Imagine an Australian couple who purchased a house in Sydney in the 1980s for $100,000. They paid off their mortgage over 30 years, and now in 2019, their home is worth $1.5 million or more. Without making any other investments, they're millionaires on paper. Anyone who bought a home in the last 40 years and paid it off likely has a net worth exceeding $1 million US dollars. This is a huge reason why Australia's median wealth is so high. Home ownership has turned ordinary families into the wealthy middle class. But there's a downside, and it's a big one. Skyrocketing prices have locked younger generations out of the housing market. Young Australians are struggling to afford homes in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. A $1.5 million price tag is out of reach for most 20 or 30-somethings even with decent jobs. This has created a sense of frustration, a feeling that the Australian dream of owning a home is slipping away. On top of that, the rush to cash in on the property boom has led to problems with unscrupulous developers. There's mention of shoddy apartment buildings thrown up quickly to capitalize on demand. These buildings, sometimes plagued by structural issues, have caused headaches for buyers and regulators alike. Let's pause for a moment to put this in perspective. Imagine a young Australian, let's call her Sarah, fresh out of university with a degree in marketing. She lands a job in Melbourne earning $60,000 a year, decent but not enough to buy a home in a city where even a small apartment costs $500,000 or more. Sarah's parents, who bought their house in the 1990s, are sitting on a property worth over $1 million, but Sarah's stuck renting, saving every penny, and wondering if she'll ever own a place of her own. This generational divide is a real challenge, and it's something Australia will need to address to keep its wealth equitable. But housing alone doesn't explain Australia's riches. There's one more piece to the puzzle, and it's called the real secret to Australia's wealth. We're introduced to the superannuation guarantee, a policy that's transformed how Australians save for the future. Introduced in 1991, superannuation is a mandatory retirement savings program. Every employer in Australia must contribute a percentage of their employees' wages, 9.5% in 2019, with plans to increase to 15% to a retirement account. These accounts are invested in the stock market, bonds, or other assets, much like pension funds in other countries. But what makes superannuation unique is its universality. It applies to almost every worker in Australia with very few exceptions. Let's break down how this works. Imagine an average Australian worker earning $82,436 Australian dollars a year. That's about $57,000 US dollars at 2019 exchange rates, a solid middle-class income. Under superannuation, their employer contributes 9.5% of that salary, or $7,831 AUD, to a retirement account every year. This money is taken out before taxes, so it's tax efficient, and most workers don't feel the pinch because it's automatic. Over a 40-year career, assuming a modest 7% annual return, that $7,131 a year grows to $1.7 million AUD by retirement. Even after adjusting for inflation, that's about $1 million AUD, a massive nest egg for the average worker. This system is a game changer. Superannuation has been almost universally acclaimed as a brilliant policy. Why? Because it forces Australians to save in a way most people wouldn't do on their own. Personal finance books always tell you to save and invest consistently, but how many of us have the discipline to do it? Australia's government solved that problem by making it mandatory. The result is a staggering $2.8 trillion AUD in superannuation funds. That's more than Australia's entire GDP at the time, showing just how significant this system is. But no system is perfect, and the downsides aren't ignored. A royal commission, a kind of high-level investigation, uncovered problems in the superannuation industry. Some fund managers were overcharging customers for fees, taking advantage of the fact that many Australians don't closely monitor their accounts until they're near retirement. Imagine paying hundreds or thousands of dollars in hidden fees over decades. It adds up. Another issue is that superannuation funds are locked away until age 60. So, a middle-aged Australian might have a net worth of $1 million on paper, but they can't touch most of it to, say, buy a bigger house or start a business. This illiquidity can be frustrating, especially for those facing financial pressures now. Let's zoom out and think about what this all means. Australia's wealth isn't just about mining or housing, it's about a system that's been carefully designed to build wealth over time. The superannuation guarantee ensures that every worker, from a barista to a brain surgeon, is saving for the future. The housing market, despite its challenges, has turned homeowners into millionaires. And the mining industry, while not the whole story, provides a steady flow of income and jobs. Together, these factors have created a nation where wealth is not just for the elite, but for the average person. To illustrate this, let's consider a hypothetical Australian family, the Thompsons. John Thompson, 55, is a school teacher in Brisbane. His wife, Emma, 52, works part-time as a nurse. They bought their home in the 1990s for $200,000 AUD, and now it's worth $1.2 million. John's superannuation account has $600,000 and Emma's has $400,000, thanks to decades of mandatory contributions. Their combined net worth is over $2 million AUD, or about $1.4 million US dollars. Their daughter Mia, 27, is a graphic designer earning $70,000 a year. She's saving through superannuation, but she's struggling to buy a home in Brisbane's pricey market. This family shows both the strengths and challenges of Australia's wealth model. Older generations are thriving, but younger ones face hurdles. Now let's put Australia's story in a global context. Australia is called the lucky country, and it's easy to see why. Its economy has grown steadily for 27 years, avoiding the recessions that hit other nations. The 2008 global financial crisis, which crippled economies from the US to Europe, barely dented Australia. Why? Partly because of its strong trade ties with Asia, especially China, which kept demand for Australian resources high, but it's also because of sound policies. The superannuation system, introduced in 1991, was a visionary move. Negative gearing, while controversial, has fueled wealth through property, and immigration policies have attracted talent and capital, boosting growth. Compare this to other wealthy nations. In the US, wealth is less evenly distributed. The top 1% own a huge share, and the median net worth is much lower, around $60,000 USD in 2019 per Credit Suisse. The US has no mandatory retirement savings. Like superannuation, so many workers rely on optional 401k plans, which are less universal. In Europe, countries like Switzerland or Norway have high wealth, but their smaller populations and unique economies, e.g., Switzerland's banking sector, make them less comparable. Australia's blend of resources, policy, and lifestyle is unmatched. What can the world learn from Australia? First, mandatory savings work. Superannuation shows that forcing people to save can build wealth without relying on individual discipline. Second, a desirable environment attracts wealth. Australia's safety, schools, and hospitals draw migrants who boost the economy. Third, economic stability matters. Avoiding recessions for 27 years isn't just luck. It's the result of sound policies and global trade ties. But there are lessons for Australia too. The housing crisis needs addressing, perhaps by reforming negative gearing or increasing affordable housing. Superannuation fees must be kept in check to protect workers' savings. And the economy needs to diversify beyond mining to reduce reliance on volatile global markets. For example, Australia's tech sector, though small, is growing, with companies like Atlassian leading the way. Investing in innovation could ensure long-term prosperity. Let's explore the mining industry further to understand its role. Australia's resource wealth isn't just about what's in the ground, it's about how it's leveraged. Sources like the Reserve Bank of Australia note that mining booms have historically driven growth. In the 2000s, China's rapid industrialization created a massive demand for iron ore and coal, and Australia was ready to supply. Places like the Pilbara region in Western Australia became global hubs for mining, with companies like BHP and Rio Tinto leading the way. These firms don't just extract resources, they create jobs, infrastructure, and export revenue. But mining is only 7% of GDP, reminding us that Australia's economy is diverse. Services like healthcare and education employ far more people and generate more economic activity. What about the workers in these industries? The $150,000 salaries for unskilled miners sound incredible, but they come with challenges. Mining jobs often require living in remote areas far from cities or families. Workers might spend weeks at a mine site, working 12-hour shifts before flying back home for a break, a lifestyle called fly in, fly out. It's lucrative but demanding, and these jobs are rare. Most Australians work in offices, schools, or hospitals, earning closer to the national average of 82 to 436 AUD. Still, the mining sector's high wages ripple through the economy, supporting local businesses and communities in mining regions. Now, let's dive deeper into the housing market, because this is where Australia's wealth really takes shape. The discussion of negative gearing is key. This policy allows investors to deduct rental losses from their taxable income, making property investment more attractive. Imagine an investor buying a $1 million apartment in Melbourne. They rent it out, but the rent doesn't cover the mortgage and maintenance costs. Under negative gearing, they can deduct those losses from their income tax, making the investment more viable. This has driven a frenzy of property buying, pushing prices higher and higher. But why are prices so high in the first place? It's not just negative gearing. Australia's population has grown steadily, from 17 million in 1990 to 25 million in 2019, partly due to immigration. Australia's open policies for skilled migrants and wealthy individuals have boosted the economy. These newcomers need homes, and with limited land in desirable cities like Sydney, demand outstrip supply. Add in low interest rates and a cultural preference for home ownership, and you get a perfect storm for high prices. Let's consider a real-world example. In Sydney's eastern suburbs, a modest 3-bedroom house might sell for $2 million USD. That's not a luxury mansion, it's a standard family home. For older Australians who bought in these areas decades ago, this is a jackpot. Their homes have appreciated tenfold, turning middle-class families into millionaires. But for younger people, it's a nightmare. A 2018 report from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows that home ownership rates among under 35s have dropped significantly. Many are forced to rent or live with parents, delaying milestones like starting a family. There's also a darker side to the housing boom: shoddy construction. Developers, eager to cash in, have built apartment complexes quickly and cheaply. In 2019, news stories emerged about buildings with structural defects, like Sydney's Opal Tower, where residents were evacuated due to cracks in the structure. These incidents highlight the risks of a market driven by speculation rather than quality. Now let's turn to superannuation, the unsung hero of Australia's wealth. Every worker gets a retirement account, and their employer contributes 9.5% of their salary. This money is invested by professional fund managers, often in diversified portfolios of stocks, bonds, and real estate. Over decades, these investments grow through compound interest, turning small contributions into large sums. The example is powerful. An average worker contributing $7,831 a year could retire with 1.7 million AUD, or $1 million after inflation. That's not just for the wealthy, it's for everyone. What makes superannuation so effective is its mandatory nature. In many countries, saving for retirement is optional, and people procrastinate or spend their money elsewhere. Australia took that choice away, ensuring that every worker builds wealth. It applies to all workers in Australia with very few exceptions. This universality is key. Whether you're a teacher, a truck driver, or a CEO, you're saving for the future. But there are challenges. The Royal Commission exposed how some fund managers charged excessive fees, eating into workers' savings. For example, a 1% annual fee might not sound like much, but over 40 years, it could reduce a retirement fund by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The government has since cracked down on these practices, but it's a reminder that even good policies need oversight. Another issue is that funds are locked until age 60. This ensures long-term savings, but can frustrate workers who need money now, for example, to pay off debt or cover medical expenses. Let's explore what this means for different Australians. Take a hypothetical worker, Ahmed, a 40-year-old electrician in Perth. He earns $90,000 AUD a year, so his employer contributes $8,550 to his superannuation annually. By age 60, assuming a 7% return, he could have over $800,000 AUD in his account. Combined with his home, which he bought for $400,000 in 2005 and is now worth $900,000, Ahmed's net worth is well over $1 million. But he can't access his super to, say, help his kids with university fees. This trade-off, security later versus flexibility now, is a tension in the system. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. Australia's wealth isn't just about individual policies. It's about a system that works together. Mining provides high incomes and export revenue. The housing market creates wealth for homeowners. Superannuation ensures long-term savings. And the economy's stability, 27 years without a recession, ties it all together. The International Monetary Fund's World Economic Outlook shows Australia's consistent growth. Even during the 2008 crisis, when banks collapsed and markets crashed globally, Australia's economy held strong, thanks to its resource exports and prudent financial regulation. But is Australia's wealth sustainable? There are challenges. High housing prices are pricing out young people, creating inequality between generations. Superannuation fees and mismanagement need ongoing reform, and the mining industry depends on global demand, which can fluctuate. For example, a slowdown in China's economy could reduce demand for Australian iron ore, hitting export revenue. These are risks Australia must navigate to maintain its status as the world's wealthiest nation. Let's compare Australia to other countries to see what makes it unique. In the US, wealth is less evenly distributed. The top 1% own a huge share, and the median net worth is much lower, around $60,000 USD in 2019 per Credit Suisse. The US has no mandatory retirement savings like superannuation, so many workers rely on optional 401k plans, which are less universal. In Europe, countries like Switzerland or Norway have high wealth, but their smaller populations and unique economies, e.g. Switzerland's banking sector, make them less comparable. Australia's blend of resources, policy and lifestyle is unmatched. What can the world learn from Australia? First, mandatory savings work. Superannuation shows that forcing people to save can build wealth without relying on individual discipline. Second, a desirable environment attracts wealth. Australia's safety, schools, and hospitals draw migrants who boost the economy. Third, economic stability matters. Avoiding recessions for 27 years isn't just luck. It's the result of sound policies and global trade ties. But there are lessons for Australia too. The housing crisis needs addressing, perhaps by reforming negative gearing or increasing affordable housing. Superannuation fees must be kept in check to protect workers' savings. And the economy needs to diversify beyond mining to reduce reliance on volatile global markets. For example, Australia's tech sector, though small, is growing, with companies like Atlassian leading the way. Investing in innovation could ensure long-term prosperity. Let's imagine Australia's future. In a best-case scenario, by 2035, Australia reforms its housing policies, making homes more affordable for young people. Superannuation contributions rise to 15%, creating even larger retirement funds. The economy diversifies into tech, renewable energy, and education exports, reducing dependence on mining. Australia remains a magnet for global talent, and its wealth grows even more equitably. In a worst-case scenario, a global economic downturn hits resource exports, housing prices crash, and young Australians grow resentful of an unequal system. The truth will likely lie in between, but Australia's track record suggests it can adapt. As we wrap up, let's reflect on what makes Australia the lucky country. It's not just luck, it's a combination of natural wealth, smart policies, and a lifestyle that attracts people from around the world. The mining industry provides a foundation, the housing market creates millionaires, and superannuation ensures everyone saves. But challenges like housing affordability and economic diversification loom large. Australia's story is one of success, but also a reminder that wealth must be managed carefully to benefit all. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into why Australians are the richest people in the world. It's a story of resources, homes, and savings, but also of people. Ordinary Australians who, through policy and opportunity, have built extraordinary wealth. Let's keep watching Australia, learning from its successes and challenges, and asking, can it stay the lucky country? Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as I have.